welcome to a brand new episode of the Cleared Sun podcast. Today, we're back with another Wi-Fi origin story, and we have Ali with us to talk about his experience with the Wi-Fi. But before that, I want to welcome Roel. Hey, Roel, how are you?
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to do these little Wi-Fi origin stories. We did one back a couple of weeks with Ian. So if you haven't heard that, you can go back and listen to it. But today we have Ali with us. Ali, nice to have you with us. Thank you for joining. How are you?
Yeah, of course. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, I watched the episode with Ian. It was really good. It's really nice to hear where he came from and what his story is and everything. So I'm looking forward to a bunch of these actually.
Yeah, the idea here is just to understand how different people get to where they are in the Wi-Fi industry. Everyone has its own path, and it's always interesting stories that people can relate to, and maybe learn a few things from or get inspired from. So it's kind of like the idea with this story. So why don't you introduce? How would you introduce yourself, Ali? If you're just going to a party and someone's like, "Well, who are you? What do you do?" Like, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, the quick one would be I'm Ali, and I work with wireless. That would be a quick thing, right? But there's more to it, of course. I am currently working as a solutions architect for Nile, and it's been an interesting journey, of course, because as you all know, I've been working in a different area before that, and then I also do some consulting here and there once in a while that kind of comes through. I'm very, of course, friends, some family members, and that kind of stuff. I also have a blog that I kind of try to create some content and write in there. It's been a while, although, that I haven't not been able to write anything in there, but just time busy and all that kind of good stuff. I live in Georgia with my family. I just recently became a grandfather. That's like actually something I wanted to
Congrats.
mention. It's been a wonderful and beautiful thing in my life. Holding that little baby granddaughter. That was just a beautiful feeling. And I am very active. I like to stay active. I work out, big time into it. I love inline skating. That's something I enjoy doing with my kids. Anything outdoors. I love being outside, and I love to cook.
Yeah,
Awesome.
the cooking part I know because we, in our Clear to Send Slack, we do have a food channel, and occasionally a lot of us will share pictures of what we're cooking. So I think it's interesting for us to find ways to connect outside of Wi-Fi.
Absolutely. I love talking about wireless, but definitely it's refreshing when you're actually having conversations, something other than work, other than wireless. It keeps your mind fresh, right? Other than wireless, actually, one more thing I'm passionate about is flowers. I'm sure you have seen me post a lot of flowers.
Yeah, I thought you just liked flowers. I didn't know you were into them.
Yeah, I got that from my mom, and she just loved gardening, and she used to force us to do gardening and help her in the garden, and it's kind of like now it's just part of me. I feel like it.
Yeah, because I recently got into taking care of plants. I'm still at the stage where I'm trying to keep them alive, but I think I'm getting better.
That's how it starts. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating because there's actually science to it. You can't just plant something anywhere and just expect it to work.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
Different fertilizer types. You have to figure out how much sun each plant needs and for how long. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, because when we deal with Wi-Fi, right, we want to learn it. We try to learn it. We're always working with Wi-Fi. And then you try to pick a hobby where maybe I don't have to think so much about it. And then, of course, I pick plants. And now I'm learning about plants, different types of plants, the type of soil I have to use, transitioning them from full sun to maybe, or from shade to full sun. And then all of a sudden they start dying, and it's like, dude, it's like I'm trying to tune plants here instead of Wi-Fi instead.
Yeah, absolutely. But think of it this in a way: when you're working on a very complicated wireless project. Think of it that way, right? And
Yeah.
when you are done with it, because you went through all the details, all the different challenges, and you deployed it, and it's working, and your customer's happy from it. I mean, it's like, oh, pat on the back, right? I'm so
Yeah.
excited that just it's the same exact thing. Once you work so hard with a plant, and then finally you see the outcome, whether it's a vegetable or whether it's like a flower, beautiful flower that comes out. I feel like it's a similar feeling. Oh my God, I worked so hard in trying to get this plant. So I just recently, for example, worked with sunflowers. I planted 30 sunflowers, only 5 or 6 survived. And finally I got some flowers out of them. So it was like, oh my God, I'm so excited.
That's so funny how we can relay the same kind of concepts between IT and planting. It's like planting the seed and waiting for that to see the fruit of all that work. But you had mentioned like doing these projects and understanding how to do a project. Why don't we step way back into when you first started in IT? I'm sure you didn't just start with Wi-Fi. So when did you first realize you wanted to be in IT?
So I never wanted to be in IT. I absolutely had zero interest in it. I was not really even good in, like, math is something I absolutely hated. And the only subjects I was good in was like physics, biology, and chemistry. And I wanted to do something either in that area or possibly be a chef or a firefighter. These were my passions, actually. And it was just a weird time in my life, long time ago. I ended up watching Matrix, and I remember watching it at least 8 times in one day. Not joking. I literally just played it over and over again.
That's a lot of Matrix.
That's a lot of Matrix. I was just so fascinated by it. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I absolutely love all this. And of course, I know it was a fiction, but just overall, computers and the technology impressed me enough that I went and registered in this. Back then, there were a whole bunch of schools that were around that would give you like focused computer courses. MCSC was a big thing back then, and some of these kind of things. So I registered for those courses, and I did a 9-month course, which was rough because it was work and studying and all that kind of stuff. Maybe 3 hours sleep every night. Did that for 9 months, and I graduated, and that's how I got into it, and I love it to this day. Of course, I started with doing low-level work, right? Like everyone else, I started my career from help desk and field engineering and all that kind of stuff, and moved up, kept moving up, and eventually ended up in the wireless.
What type of work were you doing before?
I've done all kinds of work. I've done construction. That was rough. I used to, it was, especially in the winters, and you have to work outside. And I've worked in hospitality as a server. I've worked in a deli and done catering and that kind of stuff because I wanted to be a chef. So I really enjoyed that because working around food, learning how to do the catering piece and how to present food and all these different things. Again, that's also an art because something I learned from my boss in there, it's all about presentation, right? If you are looking at food and it's not presentable, you're not gonna want to eat it. However, if it's presented in a nice way, then everyone's gonna want to eat it and buy it, of course, because there's a bunch of things involved in there too. Again, there's just selling. So I learned a lot of my selling skills in there. I learned how to communicate with customers and gather data because when you're doing catering, again, back to relating this to wireless, when you're working on a network or a wireless project, gathering data is important. We do this every day pretty much when we're talking to our customers. And if you do not gather the correct data, well, your outcome is going to be not so good and customers not going to be happy. Same thing with the catering. My boss taught me how I need to be detailed in when I'm collecting the intent of that customer for their party. And then our job was to deliver an outcome, right? I'm kind of comparing catering with intent-based networking over here, but similar concept. And that was very helpful. I mean, it is helpful to this day to me because it impacts your overall project if you don't gather data properly.
Okay, and then you start to work at a help desk, and when do you get exposed to Wi-Fi? Like when does that happen?
I used to have a friend. He was deploying a whole bunch of Cisco 1200, 1100s, the 802.11b ones, the first ones that came out, and he was deploying them in the warehouse, and he would constantly and they were trying to get them ready for handheld scanners like Motorola symbol handheld scanners. And he would come back from his project and would tell me I deployed this many access points and it installed antennas and running cables. It would just constantly talk about it. And I just kept getting fascinated about it. That's so cool, wireless and everything. And that's how I started to learn a little bit more about it. But it was still not a mainstream thing. And I had other things that I was still interested in. Got into route switch, more of a security, Cisco ASA, PICs, firewalls, and that kind of stuff is something I was kind of going for. Until I had to do my very first wireless project. I started working for this one company. And they did not have anyone who knew anything about wireless. So I was the only one who knew anything about wireless. I deployed my very first 802.11b wireless network for the whole organization. And that was exciting to do. And the interesting thing was, because it was a very security conscious environment, I had to make sure that it's secure and I had to get it approved through we had a whole team of CISOs, right? For example, they needed to approve it before we could deploy it. So I needed to architect design it in a way that they will be satisfied. And actually, I wrote a CWNE essay on that too. And they loved my architecture and they agreed to it, and we ended up deploying that. And that was my first big wireless deployment.
Okay, and that was the one you got thrown into rather than you picking a project.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And
yeah, because I was the only one on the team that kind of knew wireless. Most
gotcha.
Wireless.
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is if you just got thrown into it, how much Wi-Fi did you know at that time? Because looking back at some of the projects I've done, I always think about what I didn't know when I did some Wi-Fi projects and wish I could go back and redo them. Did you feel the same way here, or did you feel very comfortable with deploying Wi-Fi if this was your first Wi-Fi project?
From the network and securities perspective, it was fine because that's something I was doing anyway. So the backend architecture, not a problem. On the wireless side, yeah. Now when I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I could have done so much better. So yeah, definitely. Location of the access points and the survey piece, how crucial survey is. For example, AP on the state kind of survey and post validation survey, and making sure the cabling is done correctly, all these. So a whole bunch of different things that we pay attention to these days. Yeah, some of those kind of things at that time, of course, I did not know. And I did have to fix afterwards and relocate some points because it was just not covering areas that I thought that they would be covering. So sometimes people say, oh, can we just throw an AP there and it will just cover and we're good to go and everything? No, it doesn't really quite work like that. Wireless is pretty resilient. So yes, it may work until it doesn't work, is what I like to say. Especially when you try to put a load on it, that's when you start to feel it, right? And which is what happened. And I had to go back and retweak things at that point.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Sorry, go ahead, Francois.
I was going to ask you, Ali, at that time, if you had any question, where would you go to try to get answers? Because I'm guessing you couldn't rely on someone on your team to kind of help you on some of those technical Wi-Fi questions.
It was some Google, but at that point, wireless was still, again, we're talking 802.11b and G days. There was not a lot of information out there. Vendor website was really my primary source. I could not just call, hey, Roel or Francois, can I run something by you? There was nothing like that. There was no clear to send podcast or anything like that was available. And the only option I had was vendor website and some trial and error.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever think about documenting some of your work and at the time and sharing it, or it was not really a thing yet?
I mean, I documented, of course, my work for the company. So
Mm-hmm.
if I leave, I want somebody else to know what I did, everything over here, right? So I did have, floor plans. I did have those. So I marked the access point, but we didn't. It's not like we had Ekahau. So what was the product called? NetStumber. You remember that? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I used for survey, and it was a very okay. I'm gonna go at this point and record what it looks like on my laptop and just write it down, hand write it down, like it's this neg
Mm-hmm.
65 or neg 67, neg 70, whatever the signal is, and that's it. So I had those. I recorded that very minimal data like that. But of course, now we do very differently how we gather data and record, would do post validation.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then how did you go from this first project after that? What did you like? How did your career evolve after that?
Yeah, good question. I obviously in IT moved around, so I held a whole bunch of different jobs and gained experience in security, route switch, and everything. And I was always fascinated with wireless. I wanted to do more and more, and I kept doing very little minor things in wireless, and I was not quite getting to where I could really apply my knowledge and learn more wireless. That was my something that I wanted to do for the longest time. And minor small projects here and there, they were okay, not a big deal. I did work for another company where I was again thrown into a whole bunch of wireless troubleshooting. There was some very little design, but it was more troubleshooting. I did so much troubleshooting over there, which was amazing because I learned a lot during that process. Some stuff I already knew, so that was easy to fix. Some stuff I did not know, and it's reading that. By that time, this was in around after I would say 2000 14, 13, something around that time. So there was a lot more knowledge available at that time in wireless space. So I learned a lot in troubleshooting and how different clients behave. That was one of the things that was, oh my God, because this was another thing that I had to learn by being thrown into different things, that we need to pay attention how the clients behave. Not just because an access point you have you're blasting power on an access point and you have good RSSI, you're good to go. No, absolutely not. Green does not mean that you're good. Green, it could
Mm-hmm.
your RSSI could be green, but you still may have a whole bunch of other issues that can impact the performance of wireless. So got to learn a bunch of that. Then I started working for another company, and I remember it was we were having like a team lunch kind of thing, and one of the guy goes, "Have you taken your CWNA yet?" And I was there for about a year or so before he asked me that question, and I told him, "No, I have not." He said, "What the heck are you waiting for? I bet you go right now and you can at least pass the damn thing. Go take it." And he was one of those guys. He'd tell you straight up, pretty much to your face, however he felt, and he really pushed me to do it. Yeah, I want you to get your CWNA before the end of this year. And I went back home. It was, I think, like almost Christmas break that was coming up. I was thinking to myself, I'm going to actually not only get my CWNA, but I am going to apply for my CWNE within 1 year. So I set that goal. I took a week off and I started studying for my CWNA. I took my CWNA December 31st, 2019. No, 2018. Yes, 2018. And I passed it. And that really gave me some good encouragement. I'm like, I can do this. And then I went ahead and took 5 or 6 other certifications within 1 year and wrote all my essays, applied for my CWNE. I believe it was December or January of 2019. And 2020, I was my first WLPC, which was absolutely an incredible time and amazing. I was just fascinated by it, meeting all these people. And that's at the same time when I was attending WLPC, I got a notification my CWNE got approved. So that
Nice.
just, yeah, that was just an incredible year. I learned so much. It was hard work, but really put me into the wireless space and allowed me to get more into it and really use my passion.
Yeah, you talk about the certifications that you were taking from CWNP. Were there other ways you grew this Wi-Fi skill set, or did you just strictly use the training material for that was for the certifications?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely, because CWNP certifications definitely are very good certifications, but there's a thing that's I consider book knowledge, but a lot of times there's actual practical knowledge. So, of course, working in the field and volunteering myself to take on more tickets to troubleshoot wireless, that definitely helped. Of course, building a lab, that's very important because when I was going through my CWAP, which by the way was a very difficult cert, I would go through a topic and then I would try to generate those PCAPs that are being discussed in that topic. And then I would analyze them and look through them. And I would spend time and effort into it, understanding all the IEs and every different thing that's going on in there. That really helped me with the CWP certification. It was still difficult. I barely passed it.
Yeah, I think PCAPs are pretty important for the analysis portion. And there are times where, as a Wi-Fi professional going into troubleshooting, where the PCAPs actually help. I mean, now we have systems that can analyze some of that PCAPs for us, or not even do a PCAP, but they're seeing the packets anyways, and they'll do the analysis. But I still think it's important to learn how to read, a Wireshark PCAP and understand how Wi-Fi communicates. And I think I personally think that's a skill that'll probably be lost in the future, just because of all the systems that'll try to do that for us.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope not. PCAPs are important regardless, regardless of AI automation and everything. Of course, we do want that. We do want it to make our life and jobs easier, but at the same time, having a skill to get down to the PCAP level and an ability to figure out what's happening is crucial. Even let's talk AI. Even if there is, I feel like AI is in the picture, somebody's got to coach that AI, and that's where we
It
come
doesn't
in.
coach itself.
I mean, I don't know. Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
I don't know.
maybe to a certain extent, or maybe not. There's still a lot needs to happen in that space, because still somebody needs to coach that AI to be able to do. Maybe at some point it will get to a point where it will 100% coach itself. I don't know. That's why I'm always nice to AI, right? I just want to make sure when that happens, AI knows that I was always saying thank you, and I appreciate it, and these kind of things to it.
So when the end comes near, it'll be nice to you.
I know, yeah, I'll get special treatment.
Well, you work for a company that leverages AI, right? So I'm curious, are there, for someone like us who are, or other engineers, do you think AI is a skill set that should be learned? You may not have to become a AI expert, but maybe how to use AI. Do you think that's going to be important for Wi-Fi engineers coming up?
I feel like it will be important for everyone, not just wireless engineers, even financial places, legal. Believe it or not, I was recently attending a lawyers convention, and I was amazed by how much they're using AI. And I was having a discussion with a few lawyers and attorneys, and there was a discussion on AI. As you know, that you can now generate images and videos with people's faces and everything. Now, he brought up a good point. He said that, yes, you can tell right now it's AI, but what's going to happen 5 years from now, possibly, or 8 years from now? It may be so realistic that you can actually show somebody committing a crime. What then? So I'm thinking AI forensics, that's another possible job opportunity possibly that might come into play. So I think learning about AI, at least to some extent and level, may be important for regardless of the field that you are in. And if anything, it's like evolving your career. I never thought I would ever have to code in my life. I never was network, wireless, CLI. This was my thing until I saw people using Python and APIs to create scripts and deploy things. And I did my very first site using APIs and a Python script. And I was fascinated by it. Actually, my very first Python script, I believe, was inspired by one of your posts. I don't know. Either you or Francois, you wrote a post on how to log into Cisco WLC controllers to grab some data and everything. And I was working on some project, and I would have to constantly go in, run a couple of commands, and copy and paste that data. But a whole bunch of process that I had to do. I'm like, wait a minute. Let me just see if whatever, Roel or Francois, what they did, if I can do something like that and accomplish this. And that's what I ended up doing. Simple script. I believe NetMiko or something like that. And it just logged into the WLCs. So there were 10 WLCs. It just in one shot logged into all the WLCs, ran the commands, saved the output to a text file, and in a matter of like 5 seconds, I was done.
Yeah, I think that was Francois. That's definitely not me.
Okay. So the point is, I never thought that I would have to learn automation, but in order to evolve and better myself in my career and everything, I had to learn it. And it's the same exact thing. At some point, just might be a need to just learn more AI also to see what it's doing, to understand what it's doing. If you don't understand something, it makes it difficult to troubleshoot it too. At some point, somebody's going to have to troubleshoot that AI too, possibly.
Yeah,
it'll become
AI
more imperative
to a human to talk to the AI and tell it it's wrong or to change something. I mean, we do that today with ChatGPT. I'm sure a lot of you guys have used ChatGPT to query something about Wi-Fi, and some of us have found that it's incorrect in its statement. So you have to correct it through the prompt saying, hey, you're incorrect about this. Think differently about it. But yeah, you brought up some interesting comments about looking at blog posts and going to WLPC. So I'm curious how much of community and WLPC or other conferences, you mentioned going to this lawyer conference, but how much of that influences where you're going today, like your career path and your journey? How much of that is influenced by your path?
Going to the conferences, you mean?
Yeah, conferences and community.
I love the community. I'm not going to lie. Wireless community, I try as much as possible. I try to stay engaged and possible. As you know, I also try to do another event, WICO event. Peter McKenzie and Alan Blake, they started that in the UK, right? And I went to Peter, asked him, instead of reinventing the wheel, can I just use this branding and do it in the US? Because me and a couple of my other friends, we would hang out and just talk wireless locally. And I said to myself, can we extend this circle from 3 or 4 people to more possibly and just talk wireless and hang out? And that's how it started. And initially we did it, and it wasn't so bad. We had a little bit of attendance, but this year we had decent attendance. We did 3 events, for example, back in May, Philadelphia, North Carolina, and Nashville. And we got some good turnaround. And it was a great time because not only all days presentation and networking, but you get to hang out with all the wireless guys and technical people at the end of the night. And you're talking wireless, you're talking family, you're talking hobbies, travel, all kinds of different things. And it's just a great time. So I love it. I love being part of the community. I love attending WLPC conference, looking forward to it. I'm thinking about actually putting in for my, for maybe a 20-minute talk. Actually, I got the idea from Francois on intelligent reporting. And yeah, you and I talked about it briefly a little bit. So I think I'm going to present that at the WICO DC event and see how it goes. And hopefully if it goes well, and if I need to tweak it, I will present it at the WLPC also. But yeah, it impacts my career in a very good way because that's how people have gotten to know me, and I have gotten to know people. I have gotten to, one of the things I learned from one of my mentors was ability to utilize your resources. You don't know every single thing. Nobody knows. I learned that actually pretty early enough in my career. There was a time where I had a chip on my shoulder. I'm like, oh, I mean, I passed this certification. I know this book left and right, and I know this stuff. And I learned it that no, that's not the case. Well, what comes in to play an important part is how to utilize your resources. And your friends and your network is your resources, not just Google. So my ability to utilize my resources, and the bigger the network I have, everyone has an expert knowledge in something. They have done something. They have, for example, run into possibly a problem that I'm running into, and I can reach out to them and I can fix my problem much faster, or an idea that I'm looking for. So community on Twitter, now it's X, right? That wireless community has been extremely helpful, for example, for learning and solving problems. So I like to stay engaged, and I learn to this day from everyone.
Yeah, I think it's always good to lean in on people that you can count on, especially those who have seen quite a bit in the industry and can provide some input. You had mentioned that you started back in the 802.11b days, so obviously you're someone we could look to for some experience. But do you have a favorite Wi-Fi troubleshooting war story that always comes to mind, or something you could always reference?
There's a few, but there was one definitely, yeah, one that I can never forget, because it was a new job. So new guy, right? So you're scared because you are thrown into this CERT calls, critical incident response team, or something like that it was called. And Wi-Fi down meant companies losing thousands of dollars. So when it comes to the dollar amount, right, it gets scary. And it was an issue that was going on even before I started working there. So when I got thrown into this call, I was told that CEO of the company is on that call also. No pressure, right? Now, everyone said it's not their fault. Everyone blamed wireless and network, that there's a problem with the wireless. Okay, well, let's see step by step what's going on. And I had to take the lead because nobody wanted to do anything. They were just sitting quiet. So I had, as a wireless guy, because wireless is being blamed, I had to take the lead on it and troubleshoot that scenario. PCAPs, thank God to that. Now, before I started getting into wireless, I knew how to read PCAPs on the wired side. That helped me a lot when I transitioned to the wireless side, because I already knew Wireshark and how to read PCAPs on the wired side. Of course, it's different on the wireless side. So not only I grabbed PCAPs from the wireless side, I also started grabbing PCAPs from the wired side to see exactly what is happening over there. And long story short, I ended up finding out that there was an issue on a couple of application servers that were serving the web page. And because the CPU and memory on those servers was getting pretty much pegged at 100% or 99%, 98%, that request, when somebody would request to open up a web page, was taking literally 60 seconds to actually pop up. And I was able to prove that using PCAPs from both ends, using this, showing them, here's a SYN packet that's going towards the server. And literally it took server 60 seconds to respond back to that SYN with an ACK. And then it's just back and forth. So client is sending it really fast to the server, but it's taking every single time, when you look at the PCAP on the server, 60 seconds to respond back. And that was, I felt pretty accomplished that day. Not my problem anymore.
Yeah, that's a good story, because for some folks who are just strictly Wi-Fi, and you're looking at Wi-Fi PCAPs, that's all layer 2. You've already crossed off layer 2 as being clear. There's no issue there. And so you looked at layer 3, you saw SYN-ACK packets, you actually timed them. You took the delta between the request and the response, and was able to show them, hey, here's a delay that's not caused by Wi-Fi. That frame, gets to the device quickly. It's the application. And I'm sure the application guys were shocked. Like, how dare you blame on the application?
Yep, yep. I mean, initially it was always like, no, it's not an application, it's not a server, it's not this, it's always the Wi-Fi. And just like you said, it was a step-by-step process, of course. It did not happen. It took hours because first I had to prove that it's not wireless and PCAPs from the wireless side and show them why it's not wireless and show them uh, the layer two piece of it. Then I kept going more and more up, right? Okay, you go from client to the access point, from access point back to the to the switch and the router and everything, and then now let's go over the WAN because there it kept changing. Oh, okay, if it's not a Wi-Fi, it's gotta be the switch. If it's not the switch, it's gotta be the router. If it's not the router, it's gotta be the WAN. Kept changing. So it was a step-by-step process, and ability to grab PCAPs in every single step, and it's a different way you read them. You can't read wireless. Reading, just like you said it yourself, reading a PCAP on layer 3 versus layer 2 is very different. And being able to read them and being able to explain them to people who are not used to reading PCAPs, that was another interesting piece to this.
Yeah, I think you just showed how important it is to show your work. So going back to grade school and we had to show our work, how we got to the answer, it's very much the same thing today as adults.
Yeah, well said, well said. Yeah, sometimes I see my son, right? He's doing his math problems and he's got to show all his work. Why are you doing it like this? You can just don't you know the answer to this? He's like, yeah, but we have to show this work. And okay, I know you got to show this work. So I can understand why they try to teach that.
So Ali, so fast forward to today, you work for a vendor, and you've been through different roles and companies to get to where you are today. If you were to give some advice to people in Wi-Fi who wants to work for a vendor or even newcomers to Wi-Fi, what would be your advice for engineers today to kind of follow a similar path that you went through? What things that worked for you that you think will work for them as well today? What would you tell them?
I feel like one important advice that I can give to anyone, because I went through this myself, never think that you know everything. Even rely on people who are new and you feel like are junior to you, because you can learn something amazing from them. I'm not going to lie. There were times when I felt like I know something and a junior person came, actually just recently happened, and corrected me. I could have acted with an attitude and push them aside, but I asked them, okay, explain it to me, because obviously you know about this particular thing more than I do. And they did, and I learned something new. And that was my junior person in that. So always try to learn from people around you and be open to ideas. Keep an open heart, open mind.
That's a good one.
Good.
Yeah.
So, and today, so in your current role, what excites you the most about what you're doing or about the future of the Wi-Fi technology?
In the role that I'm doing right now, what excites me, as you know, the biggest thing is it's a very different architecture, the way we're doing things, and being able to explain that to someone. I still remember doing so most exciting two exciting points that happened. One presentation, 10 minutes into it, one of the senior engineer goes, I was like, is this a good huh or is this a bad huh? He said, it's actually a good huh, because I understand what you're saying. You pretty much have peeled all the layers and you're making network do something along the lines of things that we can only imagine, something along those lines, he said. And I was so happy, and I told him, I guess I don't need to present anymore. We can just go out for lunch at that point. And then the second time where I did it, where it was my presentation was supposed to be for 2 hours. It ended up being for 4 hours. And when I was done, the security guy came and patted on my back, shook my hand, and said, this was one of the best presentations. I did not even know that something like this can even happen and exist. So this kind of stuff definitely excites me, especially when you're taking something brand new, a different new concept, and you are able to explain it to a group of people, and not just technical people, even some people who are non-technical at a different level. That definitely excites me. Future of Wi-Fi, it's changing so fast. I'm having a hard time keeping up with it. We were at Wi-Fi 6E, now 7. We're already talking about 8, and honestly, something I've mentioned it to you in the past too. I have books, I can take courses, but time is what I don't have. What helps me, again, come back to learning and learning about new technologies that are coming out, podcasts like your podcast, because this was one of the very first podcasts when I got into the wireless space. CTS was the first one I started listening to, and I learned a lot from it. Now I'm driving, I'll put this on, especially if you have a topic about a new technology, because then it refreshes my brain on, okay, Wi-Fi 7, this is what it does, this is what the gotchas, this is what I need to look for, and deployment scenarios, all these different things, because I don't have time to read a book. But if I can listen to your 30 to 45-minute podcast and gain that knowledge real quick, that's amazing. That's gold.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Cool. Thank you. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Ali, it was a pleasure to have you on this show to talk to you more, and it's always great to see you at the conferences. So hopefully I'll see you at the next WLPC conference along with Francois. But where can people find you online?
I am my blog is artofrf.com, and I also I'm somewhat active on X, and Blue Sky is another place that I'm on. I think Art of RF is my handle on Blue Sky, and on X it's MALIEF46. On LinkedIn, of course, I'm there also. MALI77 is what my handle is on LinkedIn. I try to stay active these days more on LinkedIn. It seems like a lot of people have transitioned over there, and they're posting a lot more information, especially because it's more professional nature things that you're posting. So I try to post over there as much as possible also. So these are some of the places. You can also find me talking in under WLAN Pro Slack and Clear to Send Slack. I talk in there also.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. And for those who have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down on the YouTube channel where we have this video, and join us on Clear to Send if you want to talk to Ali. He's there on Clear to Send Slack. You can go to cleartosend.net/Slack or join/Slack. But just want to thank you for having it. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Ali.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Great conversation. Appreciate it.
All right. And thank you guys for listening or watching the show. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.